Good day, everyone. Happy Father's Day. This is another episode of the SLTD Going Over Big Time podcast. I am the Fantastic. That is Mike, Charlotte, and we are recording an episode to discuss, some really interesting stuff going on in the world of professional wrestling, namely the interpromotional cooperation between a number of companies, but this time including what you call the Fed, the WWE now, way more open to working with other companies, not themselves, now in the post McMahon era. Um, yeah, Mike. So, how are you feeling about all this? And this very interesting time for us as fans.
I think it's great. We've talked about in the past about how WWE needed to be more open about doing certain things like this. Obviously, we've seen the Impact slash TNA Women's Champion in the Rumble twice now, and that was really the only thing that we were getting out of WWE as far as doing this stuff. But then we had Shinsuke Nakamura go to Noah to have um, the last singles match
Yep,
of
with the Great Muda, I think it
the
was.
career of Great Muda,
Yeah, yeah,
and yeah, it's cool to see WWE doing more stuff like this. Obviously, with AEW and Forbidden Door coming up, which we are coming up on the third year of that, and AEW since day one had partnerships with uh, other federations for a while, and AAA for a little bit. Now CMLL. Now you know, um,
yeah.
and the New Japan relationship is stronger than ever, and DDT's in there also, and all these different federations that are working together. Obviously, most of Japanese federations are already working together,
Right.
but and obviously we've talked about the integration of Stardom in new in more so in New Japan more than recently, but also in AEW. And now that Ross Yagawa has started Marigold, um, that is being more prominent in the WWE world, because I think the whole reason that he started this company was to work with WWE. And we already have one of the bigger announcements to happen most recently is that Io Sky is going to Marigold on
Yeah.
July
Uh,
13th
right. To
to
face Utami Hamashi. Can't pronounce her name.
Hayashishita. I can
Yeah.
never
Yeah, I
uh
mean, you just like let out like almost every single thing we probably gonna go through in this episode. I think
well,
it's
there's
we could,
others.
well, yeah, but I mean, the idea of like companies working together, it might be really um unique, or that people fans today might say they've never seen this before. But looking back at the history of how um at least wrestling in the continental United States, it was pretty normal back in the day when the territory system was still active.
Hmm.
You had air places around the country where by a geographic border that only certain people were wrestling in. I guess back in the day there was an official governing body. You called it the NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance. You had one world champion, and the person in that case, whether it was like a Harley Race or a Ric Flair, they would be the traveling world champion. They would go to all these different companies and be the and give out the title shot to the local guy in the area. Um, we have all these territories ranging from Memphis to Mid Atlantic to AWA to at that time,
Texas.
yeah, Texas, world class, Worldwide Wrestling Federation up in the Northeast, which became today's modern WWE. And then when Vince McMahon began his national expansion of his one territory, to kind of consumed all that. But it was interesting that while that was happening in the States, in Japan, we had like these companies, All Japan and New Japan, that were growing. And really, at the end of the day, they pose no real threat to something like a WWF that was growing, because in the Japanese market, they're very limited. They're mostly catering to the Japanese market at the time. So back in the early '90s, like I remember, like WCW and WWF, they would work with like companies such as New Japan Pro Wrestling and AAA. You look at the thing I remember is the WCW and New Japan having a lot of interpromotional matches in the early
Hmm.
'90s that culminated. The biggest thing I remember was they did the big show in North Korea, of
Hmm.
all places. There's a very it's well documented what happened there.
Yeah,
As for
and
Yeah, and then
that
in WWF, they did some stuff with AAA as well. Quietly also with ECW, they did a couple of things, but there was never a
yeah,
major a breakout thing that happened with that. But
no. Um
they did try some stuff back in the day, and then
yeah, and that was really like people's like first as far as American fans, first real um like viewing of like New Japan talent, for example. Like I mean, like Yuji Nagata and Jushin Liger were pretty much regulars in WCW for most of the mid to late '90s. Um, and yeah, I mean, seeing that stuff now. I mean, for a long time when WWE was still under Vince McMahon, they were the only place in town, and they didn't want to work with anybody post 2000. And it was kind of weird that they wouldn't, but you also understood why, because WWE always has been, and probably for the most part always will be, the place to go as far as top exposure. And not having anybody from other promotions on their uh, TV at all made sense, because they want to do things their own way, and they want to do things with, whether it's the politicking or whatever, and you have people coming in that they don't want their guys to lose to. And in the '90s, I mean, we would see that a lot. The great Sasuke, for example, was involved in the light heavyweight championship tournament um, in '97. We talked about like AAA being involved, and they were in big part of the night of '97 as well. In the Rumble, there was a lot of guys in the Rumble that year. Um, but yeah, for the most part, the past couple of years, WWE didn't do those things, and it wasn't really until I guess when Mickey James came into the Women's Rumble that one time, but she also wasn't working for anybody. So that one kind of, you're muted.
so technically Mickey was a free agent
Yeah.
working for TNA Impact at the time, and I think they were. I think my understanding was at the time they were believing this to be sort of a one and done deal. Mickey
Hmm.
had obviously long-standing relationship with WWE. Um, that was just a year after she was let go from WWE, and that
And
infamous
garbage
yeah
bag gate.
the infamous incident that you described.
Yes.
And it was like, yeah, I would say WWE. I think they I think it was good that they tried to make amends, and just like this, yeah, there was no
Yeah.
way to let
And
somebody go,
the
especially
fact
someone of
that
her caliber.
she showed up in in TNA gimmick. Like
Yeah.
she came out to the music. She
Yeah,
had
like
the
she didn't
belt.
come back in her weird music that they had for her as like some cheerleader or
Yeah,
whatever it was.
she came out as her TNA character with her music, with the belt, with everything, and had a pretty good showing for the most part. And then it again, this was not a thing that was happening in WWE. You weren't seeing people from other companies for a really long time coming into WWE at all.
Yeah.
And of course, the thing I think that also stepped that up was the Shinsuke Nakamura to Noah thing.
Mm.
Shinsuke Nakamura wasn't really doing anything in WWE at the time, and as of right now, isn't either.
Yeah.
Um, but it was, Keiji Muto, the Great Muta retirement tour. Had matches everywhere that he worked in New Japan, All Japan, Noah, and Shinsuke, who was a New Japan guy, came up in their dojo and everything, showing up in Noah to have Muta's last singles match was a huge deal. And not something WWE would let happen a lot at if ever. And the match was fun. It was a good match. It gave people a glimpse into the Shinsuke of old because he was playing up his history and being from Japan and the way he came up, and it was it was a very fun match. And yeah, this year specifically, and again, I think Vince McMahon not being around is playing a big part. Because if Vince McMahon was here, this would not be happening.
Well, you know what's interesting? You bring up that point. The Mickey James incident that happened under
Well, that was
John Laurinaitis of all people. I think
yeah,
I heard was the one spearheading that one.
and that was like a make good thing, but it wasn't a
Yeah,
thing that they were doing frequently.
yeah, that's true. I
Um,
think they opened the door at that point. It was like, oh wait, we can do something like this, and it's not gonna really
yeah.
affect our bottom line. It might actually help. So
So yeah, and now WWE, of course, most recently, and we I don't think we've talked about it too much on here, but Jordan Grace was in the
yes,
Rumble, was in the Rumble this year,
yeah,
and then
actual contracted TNA talent,
yeah,
not a free agent like Mickey.
no,
Yeah.
and had a pretty good showing. I thought she could have lasted longer, but that's
Mm.
besides the point. And then she shows up in NXT to be Roxanne Perez's mystery opponent, and of course
Yeah,
the internet lost it because this is not a thing that WWE normally does.
that was a
And
shock when she showed up. Like when her music played, I was like, I think
and again,
one of the genuine pops I've experienced.
full TNA gimmick, music, everything, and yeah, they had a fine match for what it was. I didn't like the screwy finish, but that's besides the point. Um, but going off of that screwy finish, you had somebody come in who was recently fired by WWE in her TNA gimmick in Ash by Elegance.
Yeah, it was like I listened to Vic Joseph going, "Oh my God, is that Dana? I'm sorry, Ash My Elegance from
Yeah.
TNA."
And there's been reports that they're like, "Oh, we would love to work with her again." So why'd you fire her? Like,
Yeah, they saw. I guess they saw this gimmick doing like, "Oh wow, she like Dana has like real talent here." Like like this is a
yeah.
great package with
Um
this guy that's
and
giving
of
her.
course, everybody's going to speculate like, "Oh, who else is going to come to WWE from TNA? Who's going to go the other way?" Obviously, we got our first glimpse of that
Mhm.
where it was Tatum Paxley. And so this brings up another topic of discussion, I think, and we kind of talked about this privately about how whenever stuff like this happens with TNA, they did it with AEW, they did, and now they're doing it with WWE. It seems like they always get the short end of the stick. It's like, oh, we're willing to play with them, but they're helping us. We are not helping them, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Okay. So regarding this specific thing, TNA WWE partnership, you could be right. Like, I mean, it's possible that it turns out to be what happened with AEW. But I mean, it's a slow process. I'm still optimistic about this. They actually treated Jordan very well in welcoming her. Like, look, understand. They're probably hoping that like when her contract runs out, they would sign her, and I don't blame them if they try to.
Of course.
Um, yeah. I mean, other than when Tatum showed up, she didn't really get a reaction. But I was
Hmm.
like, it made sense to me because what happened at Battleground when she came out there, and so like and swiped Jordan's title, and then they did that bit with her and then Ash, and so I'm like, okay, of
Yes.
course, naturally she would be the one to answer the open challenge. I
Yes.
mean, we're looking for massive payoff, say like in Natalia. I would prefer to do it at Slammiversary in
Well,
Montreal, Canada, for that
Natalia.
reason.
I mean,
I don't know what's like. I don't
we're
know what's
gonna
happening with Natalia, but
yeah. I
that's
mean,
just if you talk
we're
about
gonna
big name as a WWE crossover to TNA, that would be someone.
we're I think we're gonna talk about this more a little later. But as far as like free agency goes, I don't think Natalia will still be under contract by July.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah. I think obviously it's really cool to see people like Jordan show up in WWE and have the matches that she was able to have and maybe will again down the line. But as far as it going both ways, it's like, okay, that's great, but I don't want to see anybody from NXT show up in TNA. I want to see people from Raw or SmackDown show up in TNA, and it doesn't seem like
Mm.
that's where it's going.
Yeah.
And
I would
you
say
said in an interview,
Tatum was like a sort of I guess a test, right, to see
yeah,
how it goes. I think now that they've seen the crowd reaction, they're thinking, we probably want to send somebody better, like for
Finn
example,
Balor.
yeah, like that one, but Obafemi, rising star, North American champion, like looks like total package. I would love
Yeah.
to see him versus Moose for some reason.
Well, and
And
it's funny you mentioned Moose because he did an interview
yeah,
stating that he does not want to face anybody from NXT. He wants to face like Gunther or you know
oh,
somebody of a bigger star power. He also said that he doesn't think anybody in NXT could handle being in the ring with him, but I think that was a character thing.
mm,
Um, but yeah, but that's the thing. I don't want to see Moose against anybody from NXT because there isn't anybody in NXT that brings that um shock factor to me to see them in
yeah.
TNA.
Well, at this point, I think what as of this recording, yeah, I know you don't, you stopped watching NXT, so I'll explain some of this to you. So last week NXT, Cody Rhodes came out and he did a promo with Trick Williams, the NXT champion, and
Hmm.
announced that there's going to be a battle royal to determine Trick's next challenger. And Cody said, "Yeah, you'll recognize some of these people, but you gotta get some people who are from different locker rooms." And you're
Well,
like,
and Matt Hardy already said
"Oh,
that he's going to be there.
so it might be Matt Hardy." Um, we're talking about we're talking about potential TNA crossovers. So who the hell knows who will show up next? Um,
Yeah, and there's been
there's like
a lot of teasing online.
yeah, yeah,
Obviously, if you watched Battleground, Wes Lee got attacked
yes, by Gallus.
by Gallus,
Yeah,
and Trey Miguel and
Zach Wentz.
Zach Wentz both were like, "What the fuck? We're a
Yeah,
call." They're like, "Oh, we're a call away." Blah blah blah. Like,
yeah. They barely played on the 3-on-1 beatdown. It's like Wesley's all alone. He's been
yeah,
gang raped by these Irish like Scottish people or Irish people, and then they put him in a 6-man tag with Pete Dunne and like Tyler Bate. But I'm like,
yeah.
yeah, but they're not a real team. You really need somebody who like knows Wesley the best, right? And
Yeah, and I mean, like
I mean,
Zach
you kind of opened
Wentz.
the door on that one. Yeah.
Zach Wentz, I think, wrongfully got let go. Of course,
Yeah.
again, this was during the Vince era.
Yeah.
A lot of whatever was going on there. It was kind of like, oh, something negative came out about this guy, get rid of him, kind of thing. And I don't think that was fair. But yeah, I mean, you got that possibility of that happening. I mean, you got um, Chris Bay and Ace Austin saying they want to come over and face the tag champs. Um, but yeah, and I don't think that you would be having any of that if this wasn't going on right now. Um, so it,
I mean, the biggest payoff or the biggest one. I mean, if they really want to get just like even just one major main roster star, just this year alone, there's really only one name on my mind is AJ Styles.
well, of course,
Yeah, I mean AJ, we just came off the heels of losing the I Quit match at Clash at the Castle in Scotland.
yeah,
It just announced that AJ Styles on Saturday, July 13th, will be at the
the same day as the EO thing.
yeah at Destination 2024, where he will face Pro Wrestling Noah's Naomichi Marufuji.
Yes.
So we're getting AJ Styles back in
Um.
Japan for the first
Yep.
time since when? Like for in the last since
2015,
yeah, exactly. So um
December of 2015.
so they've already opened the door for AJ Styles to work in other promotions or like doing the Shinsuke Nakamura route. And with this
Yes.
TNA thing, he has an obvious natural connection to TNA. So if you're looking to like make a big payoff, I mean,
Of course.
I don't even need to do it at Slammiversary, even though like so I was hoping like if there's one person that I want him to face, it's Josh Alexander.
Yeah.
Josh Alexander has been doing the
I,
Styles Clash in a couple of
I would
occasions.
feel like he's the only person.
He's the only person. Yeah, exactly. Um, I don't need it. I mean, it would be great if it's at Slammiversary, but as I understand it, the match AJ is having at Noah, it's like a week before Slammiversary.
Yes.
I don't. I'd be interested if there was just even a run in. Like Josh is like throws out a kind of challenge. He's like, nobody can beat me. I'm the standard of TNA. Like,
Yeah.
and then the lights go
And
out. They're like, you're not the standard of TNA. I am. And they're like,
yeah.
let's do this, buddy. Bound for Glory. You, me, and I guess Bound for Glory is probably going to be in
October.
London or UK. I I think that was a speculation that this year's Bound for Glory is going to take place in London. Um,
Oh.
yeah,
Okay.
maybe it's a possibility. That's only the rumor. I'm not sure if it is, but I wouldn't
Yeah.
be surprised. They are trying to
Um.
expand the UK market.
Well,
Um,
that should be a hell of a match. Marufuji and AJ. That is poised to be a very big weekend for for this WWE relationship with Wrestle Universe, because that's the so Wrestle Universe is a streaming service that carries every Japanese federation under
mm,
like a specific umbrella. So you have Marigold on there, you have Noah on there, you have DDT on there. And there's a bunch of others. I just don't remember all of them off the top of my head, but the WWE seems to be building a relationship with the two biggest. I mean, the biggest male fed on there, and now the biggest female fed on there. Uh, I mean, I guess other than Tokyo Joshi Pro, but
yeah,
because they've been around longer.
right.
But yeah. I mean, and the EO thing and the EO match and the AJ match are happening on the same day.
Mm,
Um, so that's going to be a hell of a weekend for wrestling fans. But yeah,
yeah, yeah,
obviously I would love to see WWE do more of this,
right.
and having AJ go to Noah is huge
Yeah,
because it's not like when Shinsuke went to Noah, Shinsuke wasn't doing anything. AJ's been in programs and
yeah,
doing stuff. I mean, not. I mean, there was a period where he was not doing a lot because he was either injured or taking a break. But
yeah. Yeah.
But now he's since he's been back, he's been doing stuff. So it's cool to see like a big
Well,
name like
you almost like you almost like glazed over the doing stuff. Like like the major program AJ was in was emulating Mark Henry's fake retirement to almost down to the last detail, except the color of the jacket. I was like, as soon
amazing.
as I saw a picture of that, I'm like, this is
I
exact,
mean, I
this is
saw that
going
coming from a
exactly.
mile away.
I'm
I
like,
saw that.
I think they're thinking, oh, I guess we have a huge fan base that didn't watch wrestling in 2011. They're
Yeah,
like, yeah, they won't remember what happened here. But yeah, you
and
had AJ like
and yeah,
world title shots, and then saying to Nick Aldis, "This is like I need another title shot. I'm at the tail end of my career. This is my last chance." So it's like
yeah,
they're doing these programs where he's like he gets his last chances in WWE, and it's like, well, AJ, you're still like a beast. Like where else can you go? Like why don't you
yeah,
like the door's open now? So
yeah.
go back to dig back in the well and then like maybe do something that
And hats off to Jordan Grace for coming up with prohibited portal instead of forbidden door. I thought that was hilarious. But that's also very funny considering the portal news. Did you all right, so this isn't really wrestling related, but did you
yeah.
hear about this portal thing in New York that
Yes, the
uh,
one where it's like a screen in New York City. I guess it was in Times
yes, and it goes to like on the opposite end is
Dublin,
like
Ireland, or something.
Ireland or whatever, and
Yeah, and
people got it shut. People got it shut down because the people from Ireland were showing pictures of 9/11, and
okay.
on the New York side, people were either flashing it or
I
just
think it was
doing
like I think it was like just one woman who was flashing it, and then they just shut it
yeah.
down.
But yeah, so that's why prohibited portal popped me because of that.
Oh, okay, I get it.
Um,
Yeah,
uh, but yeah, so yeah, I think it's really cool that WWE is finally doing stuff like this. And again, I already said it a bunch of times, but I don't think any of this would be happening if Vince was still around. I mean, if Vince was still around, half the things going on TV wouldn't be happening, but that's besides the point. Um, Half the people that are there probably wouldn't even be there, to be honest.
yeah,
But um, yeah, I hope to see more of that because, of course, like this is an established thing with AEW, with Forbidden Door,
yep.
working with CMLL. We've had in the past couple of weeks had a lot of CMLL guys coming in and New Japan guys set up for Forbidden Door. We got big matches announced. Only one of them is a match that we predicted. So far, there's still matches to be announced, I think. Um, but yeah, I the thing is with the AEW, it's not new, so it's not like something that we are like clamoring to see on their end because we see it all the time. Um, and they do a great job of making people care about the people that are there because most AEW fans are or have been New Japan fans already. I think they needed to work a little harder to get people to care about CMLL people because even though CMLL is the oldest federation in the world, not a lot of people in America are watching it or even know it exists.
Yeah.
Um, but the moment that I saw Hechicero take on Brian Danielson, I was like, oh, I want to see more of Hechicero. And he just had a good match with Dalton Castle last night. Um, and of course Mystico is there, and we all know about him. He's the original Sin Cara.
Mm.
So but yeah, and you've had these guys going into New Japan already, so I think people had an idea because New Japan and CMLL have been working together for a long time. And I don't think people would know who Stephanie Vaquer is if it wasn't for New Japan. Um, but yeah, I think it's really cool to see all of this, to see how it has helped companies reach other audiences to and especially on the WWE side more than the AEW side because it's not new there. I want to see more of it. And if AJ is in, I mean, we've talked about in the past how this might be AJ's last contract. If it is, it would make sense for him to have a return to TNA. It would make sense for him to close out his career having one more TNA run because that's the place that made him. Um, and yeah, I want to see other guys do that, but only seeing it in an NXT is not something that I'm super excited about.
Hmm.
And only seeing somebody like Tatum Paxley go over to an Impact show is not something that I'm excited about. So I need to see more.
Yeah. Speaking of potential, I mean, we mentioned free agency in the just a couple of discussions just before.
Yeah.
There's a few people that are on free agency that potentially could just show up anywhere, but they still have that WWE aura around them, right? We've got
Yeah.
Becky Lynch, whose contract just kind of expired. We're not really expecting her anywhere. She's probably just taking a long extended break.
Yeah, I expect that Becky is taking as long of a break as Seth is injured.
Hmm.
So whenever Seth goes back to WWE, I think is when she will sign a new deal. Because Seth is dealing with his knee right now, and she's a free agent, so they get to spend as much time as possible at home with the family and everything. So I think everybody expects Becky to go back. I don't think anybody expects her to leave. Would it be interesting if she did? Absolutely, because she's probably the most popular women's wrestler in the world.
Yeah.
Um,
Ricochet is another name that
yes,
his contract just ended.
and yep,
And in true, unfortunately, in true WWE fashion, the way they rolled him out of the show
yes,
was just a horrendous beatdown followed by a trip to in the ambulance. Somebody compared to how Jade Cargill ended her run in AEW, which was a fantastic match, and then a hug in the ring, and they're like, "Good luck, Jade." Ricochet gets his ass annihilated by Braun Breaker.
didn't even have a
Um,
match. He just got beat up.
yeah, it wasn't even a match. It was like you did a run in and then just got squashed, and then just
Yeah,
got like his ass phoned in the hospital. And then Samantha, his fiance, had to like leave her duties to like attend to
yes,
her man, which was actually beneficial because it left Pat McAfee to do these ring announcing for the temporary period where I think he
mm-hmm.
killed it.
Sure.
Announcing Drew as the big ass Scotsman and the Finn
Uh-huh.
battle with 0% body fat.
Yes.
They probably
That
need to give him more of that. But in terms of Ricochet, if this is a actual end to this contract and it's not an extension storyline where he comes back, well, actually, I have an idea about that. But if this is him like leaving, I think a more natural path would be for him to show up in TNA before doing anything in AEW because a lot of people want him to go to AEW immediately because of potential matches with guys like Will Ospreay and obviously Swerve Strickland, as those two had a past in
mm-hmm.
Lucha Underground.
Mm-hmm.
My problem with that is like every time AEW announces like some big signing, they get a bit of buzz in the first couple of months or so, and then they gotta get lost in the wayside or something, or they just get lost in the mix, and then and then next thing you know, they pop up in like 6-man tag teams or other matches that are not that really significant. Reason I'm saying this is because this is kind of what happened for Andrade. Andrade came in, was like got some big buzz, had some decent matches, but they kind of just fizzled out. Was written off TV for a while, came back, didn't really climb up to the heights that you were, and then he just let his contract expire. He went back to WWE, which, based on recent events, I'm not entirely sure they have any major plans for him. As Andrade is now the new WWE Speed Champion, in which his matches are only 3 minutes long. Ironically, the same fate that was Ricochet had before he was written off television.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know which company would like give him like a good rub, and when he if he
So
wants to get back into it. But it's
so I don't expect Ricochet to sign somewhere right away if he
yeah,
is officially done with WWE. I mean, there's been conflicting reports, of course. Everybody has pretty much reported that he gave his notice and that his contract is up in July. Um, which of course lines up with enough time to build a match for All In. And everybody is saying that that should be Will Ospreay, because if Will Ospreay is in the world title match at Forbidden Door and they're starting to announce participants for the Owen Cup, and since he's got this title match, I don't think he's going to be in the Owen Cup in order to get a title shot at All In. But me and Tanner discussed how that shouldn't even be the case since he just won the international title, but that's
yeah.
besides the point.
I guess I guess there is some reason why they wanted to do Osprey versus Strickland this early.
Well,
Because
yeah,
maybe had plans
my
later.
idea, my idea, eh, my head canon was that they would do this match now to avoid people wanting to see it at All In, because that's been what everybody has been saying for the longest time. Oh, they got to do Osprey versus Strickland at All In because it's UK. Not necessarily. I mean, yes, Osprey is great, and Osprey has had great matches since before and after joining AEW. But that doesn't mean he needs to be in the world title picture in year one. He can do other things. And yeah, I think most people think that you want All In 2 to be special, then you have him face Ricochet. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that Ricochet has to sign right away. He could do other things. He could do indie bookings. I'm sure he would want to go back to places that he worked before, like if PWG is doing stuff, I'm sure he would want to go there again. But yeah, I obviously, since the announcement of Ricochet's contract status, Ricochet has been dropping hints. Osprey has been dropping hints. Strickland has been dropping hints. Everybody who's anybody that isn't in WWE has been dropping hints about working with Ricochet again. And yeah, would it be cool to see him in Impact for a little, TNA for a little? Sure. But I don't think that that's somewhere he would sign. I think it would kind of just be like a stop. But yeah, I fully expect him to go to AEW. If it's right away, then I don't know. But because I want to see that Osprey rematch. I want to see him have a match with Strickland again. I want to see him face Kenny Omega down the line. I want to see him name anybody in AEW. I want to see them have a match. I even want to see him face Malachi Black again. That would be amazing, considering that the cuffs will be off as far as what they can do in the ring. But yeah, I fully expect it to happen. I just don't know if it happens right away. Then they're clearly thinking All In for something. I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot going on out there, and in combination of like all these companies working together, and a couple of free agents flying around. I mean,
Yeah.
the big ones aren't. I mean, Seth is re-signed his contract. Drew
Yes.
McIntyre as well.
Chad.
Um,
So it was
Chad
announced.
Gable.
Yes,
Yeah.
Chad. So Chad announced on a podcast appearance that he had resigned. He didn't say for how long or for whatever. But he was one of the names that was on the list of like, oh, I would love to see him in New Japan, like killing it in the G1 or something. Um, but yeah, so Chad is re-signed, and a lot of people are kind of not happy about that, me included. But but I guess he's happy with how he's been used recently and where things are going and the storylines that he's in. I'm not necessarily a fan of the Otis stuff. Um, I get it, but it's just not for me. Um, so yeah, I am a little disappointed that Chad decided to stay, but but yeah, New Japan would have been my place for him for sure. Um, that would have been great, but he's staying. We talked about it a little earlier, but Natalia is a name that people are throwing around a lot as somebody that might leave. Um, of course, she's been a WWE lifer before. I mean, she was on the Indies a little, but as soon as she came to WWE, it was like, she's not going anywhere. She's a heart. She's, WWE for life, whatever. But it got to a point, I think, she hasn't really been involved in a proper, like, program of any kind in years. And she's basically she's the Dolph Ziggler of the women's division. She's around to make other people look good and put on good performances, but not to win anything. And that's fine. People get into those roles and are just happy with what they're doing. But I feel like if she left, she would have the ability to face people that she's never faced before or hasn't faced in a really long time, whether it's in Impact or AEW. Um, Again, I think when it comes down to which one that she goes to, I think it'll come down to the money, and I don't think Impact is going to give her the money that AEW could give her. Because if she goes to AEW, she would be a hell of a player coach, like Madison Rain, for example. Um, you get to see her have matches that we've never seen her have, but also be like a behind the scenes person that helps all of the women's talent with whatever. And even if she did that, I don't think she would necessarily win a title or anything like that. It would just be a new experience for her to go somewhere else and face new people and be in a role that would help develop everybody else, which I think is what she's probably the best at. And I don't know if there is anybody left in WWE for her to do that with.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Adam Copeland. His last match in WWE was against Sheamus because he never faced Sheamus before 1-on-1. So at that
Yeah.
point, he's kind of exhausted everything he has to do, and I'm seeing that for Natalia, and I definitely think she can benefit from appearing on TNA to face Jordan Grace or s- trying stuff elsewhere at this point. And if the
Yeah,
door,
I mean, I would love to see her face Britt Baker down the line when she comes back. Diana, um, Thunder Rosa, just to have those matches and to say that she had them. And I mean, it would be cool. Also, just this is kind of just wishful thinking by most people, but if her contract is up soon, and if she's in the Owen Hart Cup just to be in it, that would be really cool.
mm,
Um, it would be nice to see her be in that to help uh, remember her uncle, pay tribute to her uncle, and even if she got past the first round, just to say that she had a big win in there as a reminder of like she's a heart. She's really good. Like, and I think everybody knows that. But um, just lately in WWE, it kind of feels like she's just there. And I think a change of scenery for her would be great for her in the long run.
Yeah. At the end of the day, having free agency has its benefits, and I mean, it's not going to work for everybody, but there are some that I think would work for some, and Natalia and Ricochet are, I think, two examples where that could, because I mean, Natalia has done most of her work in WWE for her career, but she's come to the point where she's kind of done everything there is to do in that one company, and her going somewhere else
Well,
potentially beneficial.
yeah, and
And
she's never she's
Ricochet has done stuff outside of WWE before coming there,
yeah.
so it would be a natural fit for him to go back somewhere else.
So Natalia's unfortunately for Natalia, despite how good she is, and again, because she's been in this role for so long and they're not really going to heat her up to the point where it would matter, she's never going to win Rumble. She's
Mm.
never going to win Money in the Bank.
Yeah, the big one is not going to be in her. Unfortunately, not.
She's not going to have a WrestleMania main event. As much as that sucks, and as much as I think she would deserve it, it's never going to happen. And I hate to say that, but because I don't think that that's fair to say that to anybody, but you just look at it on paper, they don't look at her that way. They look at her as the veteran who's there to make everybody else look good, and that's it. And it's not fair. And maybe if she leaves for a year or two and comes back, maybe she would get that opportunity again. I don't know. But um right now, I think she needs to leave to prove how good she is. Like what Nick Nemeth is doing now. Nick Nemeth was there for almost 20 years. And of course he got opportunities, he got world titles, but at the end of the day, he was just the guy that they used to get other people over, and was never they never looked at him as the guy. And now he's proving them wrong in other places, whether it's in TNA or New Japan or random indie appearances. But now people want to see him because he is a big name that is getting opportunities to prove how good he is again.
Okay, yeah. Um, as we were wrapping up here, like, any final thoughts about all of this inner promotional stuff? I mean, we've said everything there is to say for now. It's really depends on like what happens in the next couple of months, right?
Well,
So,
I want to add just that I mean we talked about it a little with Ash by Elegance, but I do
mhm.
think it's weird. I do think it's kind of weird that you got people that have been fired by WWE who now work for TNA, and then people are like, "Oh, I want to see them come back." But what if they don't want to? What if they still are not feeling great about the fact that they got fired when they had other opportunities lined up in WWE and were just let go? Of course, I'm specifically talking about Mustafa Ali.
yeah, I mean, the idea that there was some fantasy booking they're thinking, oh, the X Division champion, he should like face some of the
Yes.
stars at NXT, and I'm like, oh, you mean like Mustafa Ali that you were planning
The
to put
guy that had a North American title shot and was
shot and
fired
you're
before
fired?
he could get it?
Yeah, it's like, oh, is he gonna do a title for title match now? That's kind of weird. It's like you
I
just
mean,
let him
if
fire him,
I was
right?
him, if I was him, I would turn that down immediately. I and I'm not even saying it as a joke. Like, he should be mad that the idea of the X Division champion going to NXT to face the North American champion it would even be suggested to him because they want to work with him now because he was supposed to supposedly win the North American title and then he just gets fired before he could even have the match. That's not okay in my book.
Yeah.
And he should
That's
not be
yeah.
okay with it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's gonna be some of that. I mean, some of those situations with this TNA WWE crossover potential. I mean, you mentioned Ash by Elegance, you mentioned Mustafa Ali.
Yeah.
Um, who knows?
I mean, if Zach Wentz is okay with doing it, that's on him.
Right.
You know, I think he was wrongfully let go for shitty reasons, but that's besides the point. If he's okay with doing it, then that's cool. But he should also be upset.
Yeah. All right. And just to wrap it up, hopefully we can see some positives in these partnerships going down the road between all these different companies. At the end of the day, it really does kind of feel like the old territory days again, except it's a little more of a modern system. There's no real there's no governing body that's like the mafia, like dictating the rules that they all have to operate under. It's just like business with people, and they're just doing it for the benefit of fans, for the better, hopefully.
Yes.
Yeah. So with that, as we wrap up, I think let's see, it's the middle of June. I believe the next show is AEW's Forbidden Door in Long Island,
Yes.
June 30th.
So I will be attending,
Yes, you
and
will be attending.
I am very much looking forward to that. I mean, we've talked about it on here about how I still don't think that it makes sense to have the uh, international champion facing the world champion at Forbidden Door when you could be having an international title match. But it's also not lost on me that I'm going to get to see Swerve Strickland versus Will Ospreay in person. Um, and of course, Mox and Naito are having their rematch. Not the match I would have done with, but it's okay. It's still going to be a hell of a match. Um, and yeah, I'm very much looking forward to that because it is going to be my first AEW pay per view. Um,
Oh
so
yeah, you mentioned you were at Osler Ash for a Grand Slam before that, but that was on Dynamite.
yes,
Oh,
so I've been to the first three
yeah.
Grand Slam shows, and yeah, I'm looking forward to this being my first pay per view. I think it's going to be a hell of a show with New Japan guys, AEW guys. Hopefully, we'll be getting more matches here and there. There's going to be a ladder match, and I think that's going to be the first time I've ever seen a ladder match in person. I am pretty sure of that. I would have to look back, but um, and I'm hoping that there's at least going to be one or two New Japan guys in that match because there's already four AEW guys, and
Yeah.
there's going to be 6 participants, I think. Um, but yes, that should be a hell of a show. But yeah, that's going to do it for us. Make sure to go
Yeah.
to our
And
link.
I actually will be attending Money in the Bank
Yes.
July 6th, is it? Yeah, I think it's July 6th.
Uh huh.
Um, yeah, they definitely changed kind of just the theme. Well, I mean, it's still gonna be a ladder match, but they changed out the old Money in the Bank theme song for something that looks more like a female and a male hamburger running around with a briefcase.
Okay.
So yeah. Anyway, I don't know what
uh,
the match. The qualifying matches will start the Raw after tonight when we start recording. So we'll see
yes.
how it shapes up. But anyway,
Uh,
uh,
so
yeah, we
make
are.
sure to go to our linktree / going over big time podcast. It's where you could see everything that we are doing in audio, video, as well as social medias for all of us, as well as the podcast itself. a Facebook page, and all of that good stuff. So that is going to do it for me. Alan, your
Nope.
closing thoughts.
Yep. Thank you for just letting people know how to find us. And once again, just try to enjoy watching the wrestling you want to watch and not listening to what people tell you it's good or not. Okay. So with that, thank you very much for listening and have a good day.